It's not just another race or racetrack. It's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Some drivers are here because of their heritage. Others come back each year trying to win the race that their father never could. All have dreams and hopes. And today is their last chance to put themselves in the chosen 33 that will compete in the greatest race in the world. Qualifying at Indianapolis. You put it in the race today or you wait till next year.
That it has a lot of dramatic moments to it. Some good for some bad for some. But we'll get to that.
Now, we've been telling you all month how the drivers qualify according to speed according to day. But as far as bumping is concerned, the slowest man in the field, regardless of when he qualified, is bumped out.
That means very simply that when somebody goes out to qualify today, they must bump somebody else out of the field. And it always is the slowest qualifying speed car remaining in the race at that point.
And so time comes into the factor, the enemy of all race drivers. We will be with the end of the day at 6 o'clock, and then it is over.
Also, at the back of the grid, sometimes the cars are not that good, which means you have to stretch down and go into the danger zone, try and make that car do a little bit more than it can do. If you're successful, it's tremendous satisfaction. Sometimes you're in the danger zone and you still don't succeed. That's disappointment.
I don't think anyone who will attempt to qualify for this race here today would look you in the eye and tell you they think they will win the Indy 500. But the point of this day is the scope of this race. To simply qualify for the field is a major victory, not only in terms of personal achievement, but think about it in terms of money and of the kind of exposure that gets big sponsors.
Well, the drivers down towards the back of the grid, they probably get about 40% of what the car earns if it qualifies. Well, 40% of Indy could be as much as 80% of their whole year's earnings. So that's an idea of what's at stake.
This race is everything. And for these guys to not make this race, or worse still, to be bumped out right down to the last minute of the day, this fourth day of qualifying, is really almost a personal tragedy. So the air here is electric.
Even always high again!
He did it! Unbelievable!
Oh no! He spins it and hits the wall!
Bob Scott comes back to the Speedway in '54, and he's got a roadster, a one-year-old Curtis roadster, the Travel-On Trailer Special that Jim Rathman had driven the year before. It was supposed to be for Troy Ruttman. So anyway, Bob Scott goes ahead and qualifies at a speed that he thought, the crew, everybody thought would be safe enough, and it ended up that he got bumped. So he's out of the field, but he had been working on the last day with the Ray Brady Special. There were two of them, and they'd been around quite a while. I mean, some stories say, it was the oldest car in the history of the race, which is baloney, but I think it might have been about 4 years old, and it was 4 or 5 years old, and it was basically a dirt car, and a little bit of a slug compared with the others, and it wasn't a low-slung, low center of gravity type car. So he's out there and getting good speed. So they put him in line to qualify, and it was probably about 25 to 6, 20 to 6 or something, and there's a long line, and he goes out, and he's making it fast enough to qualify. He comes down, takes the white flag, and was running well fast enough to qualify, and then they wait, and then they hear he's slowing down. And he comes into the pits. And the poor fellow, what had happened was, with all of the encouragement from the other people, Bob Swikert actually blamed himself for this. He was standing on the wall, and he was sort of doing the victory salute and like waving a handkerchief above his head or something like that, just jubilant. And Bob Scott mistook that for the fact that he'd finished the run. I mean, you're not counting the laps while you're out there. And so the shadows were coming across, and he just saw the guy waving the flag and didn't realize it was the white. So he came in too late to go out again.
Here's
is the car with which Roger Ward won his second Indianapolis 500 in 1962. In fact, Roger had this fabulous record in the 6-year period from 1959 to 1964. He finished first, second, third, first, fourth, and second. But did you know how he did in 1965? He didn't even qualify. He was the 34th fastest qualifier, the first alternate starter. It was a stunning thing to happen at the time, but it added a lot of credibility to the Indianapolis 500. In order to start, you've got to be one of the fastest 33.
The final spot, however, was still in doubt. Rick Muther had qualified 33rd, but any car that could go faster than he had in the remaining time would bump him from the field. And late in the day, one went out to try to do it. It was number 92, a Repco Brabham driven by Peter Revson, Muther sweating it out. Revson, one of the heirs to the Revlon Cosmetics fortune, giving it his all to try to qualify at Indy. When a checkered flag went out, there was no question, Muther knew it. He had been bumped. Revson into the pits, the dream of a young driver's lifetime. He had qualified to race in the Indianapolis 500. A happy young man.
In 1972, Hurtubise had actually qualified for the race with a rear-engine car. He had the Roadster there, but he'd really seriously given up on it. I think probably 71 was the last time that, certainly 71, the last time he was seriously trying to qualify it. So in 72, he had qualified a rear-engine car. He put the Roadster in line. You didn't have to have a sticker to get into the qualifying line. If you passed tech, that was it. The car was placed in line, and as everybody else would come up for a last-minute attempt, and he placed it in such a position. They waited at the north end and then put it in line, knowing that they wouldn't get to the front before the gun went off. When the gun went off, the car was about fifth in line, and because the official said, "Well, what are you going to do with that? You can't qualify that. You're in the race." And he said, "Well, if somebody gets bumped, they may need a ride, so we'll put him in it," which would happen in those days. Somebody would jump into a car in the qualifying line that they hadn't driven. So anyway, gun goes off, and then Hurtubise has the crew take the hood off, and where the engine would normally be, the engine had been removed, and plastic sheets had been placed in, and there was beer in ice in the plastic sheet. So it wasn't a case of beer, and so a lot of people started laughing. The officials didn't think it was funny, and one of the tech people said, "I wonder what was going on," because I could see water dripping out from underneath the car when they were almost to the front of the line. And again, Hurtubise, the crowd loved it. The officials didn't think it was funny, and things started to change then about the cars that were allowed to get in line to make a qualifying attempt.
In 1977, Salt Walter, this was kind of a sensation because, they're a very high-profile team. You figure, well, they've got no problem at all. So they did a thing where they qualified on the first day, seemed all right, low end, no problem, but then the speeds picked up and they got bumped. So Salt's got a backup car, and they're trying to get the thing up to speed, and they struggled through the day, but they're going to make an attempt, late on the last day. Jimmy McElreath's son, they entered their own Eagle with James McElreath as the driver. And so there was actually a long line of cars going through and a lot of wave-offs, and then quite late, 10 to 6 or something, it was James McElreath's turn. So out he goes. The field was already full, and but he ran the 4 laps to completion. And Salt Walter got stuck in line, and so missed the show. And there was some people, Ray Marquette was the one. There was a rumor going around that Jimmy McElreath had done that just to stick it to the Walters over an unpaid hotel bill when he had gone to Pocono, I think like 2 or 3 years before.
Oh my.
Where he went out there to drive for Walters, and they were supposed to take care of the accommodations and didn't, and Jimmy was stuck with the bill. So anyway, Marquette said, that these were the rumors that were going around. He said, well, James You know, we knew we weren't going to make it, but we're going to come back next year, and he will make it. We wanted him to go through the qualification procedure and feel what it was like, and just sort of get the 4 laps to pace himself and everything. So he said, so what about the rumor about the hotel bill? And is that true? And he said, no. And McElrath goes walking off, and then Marquette calls up and says, hey, Jimmy, how much was the bill? He said, $276.38. Anyway.
This is Craig Roberts back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and there's quite a crowd gathered around the car second in line right now, and that's Jim Hurtubise, the Mallard Roadster car 56. Yesterday, Jim was refused a final sticker. They said he wasn't up to qualifying speed. They said that car wouldn't run 180 miles an hour, and Jim, of course, says there is no such rule that says you have to get up to a certain speed in order to qualify. He may or may not have a court order which will allow him to actually try to qualify car number 56, and he has tried it time and time again. So Herc is working on him pretty good down there, and that's the reason for the big crowd.
He has put his car right in front of the next qualifier, and that's Bob Hartke. Every car, in order to be on the track, must have, first of all, an inspection sticker, and that permits them to practice. Then they get their final inspection sticker, and that's based on safety and whether or not the machine can actually make racing speeds. And they've been timing Jim Hurtubise and that old roadster, he calls it the Mallard, all month long. He's never gotten over 175 miles an hour, and they say a rookie has to pass tests at that. So they have not given him the final inspection sticker. Now, Hurtubise at the moment is standing right in front of car number 42 with Bob Hartke, who is the next car in line, and defying the USAC officials, that's Tom Binford, the chief steward, to move it.
Looks like things are breaking up a little bit down at the start-finish line. Apparently, Herc got out of that car, and now Bob Hartke is going to go out for a qualification attempt. Question of the fact that he is a definite veteran. I would like to see him in perhaps a better car, if we could put that more politely. Here we go.
It looks like they're escorting somebody out. Who is that? Is that Hurtubise?
Well, it's kind of difficult to tell at this point, but I would suggest he is the only one who is causing a commotion down there. Perhaps it is Jim. To fill the field, and then the bumping will start. Let's pick up the PA and Tom Carnegie.
Everyone behind the yellow line. Now there goes Hurtubise out onto the track, trying to hold up this qualification. Well, I think he just has... Now everybody get back. That's everybody get back. Everybody get back.
Jim Hurtubise now being led away through the Tower Terrace area by some state troopers, and I believe it did take a state trooper to get Jim out of here.
Earlier this afternoon at 4:15 we had a dramatic happening. We've had difficult weather all day, but at that time Dennis Firestone in car number 90 got onto the racetrack for an attempt to qualify. Rain clouds were certainly threatening as he went round on this, the third lap of his qualifying attempt. The clouds were really beginning to, and you can see how close he was to the wall there as he came out of turn 1 through turn 2 at this time and getting onto the backstretch. Now, the rain clouds were really threatening. He could obviously see that from his driving position, and remember, these cars have got slick tires, there's no drainage for the wet weather, and he goes in now to turn 3 where spots of rain apparently were already hitting the car. He had reduced his speed considerably. Remember, he had to beat 180 miles an hour. It looked like he had an easy time, but he could at this time so simply have gone off the racetrack. So Dennis Firestone, a road racer born in Australia, president of a trucking company, was seeing that checkered flight in sight. He was able to cross the finishing line and therefore qualify for the 67th running of the Indianapolis 500.
Hey, congratulations, Dennis. I can't believe it happened. You had a big slowdown on the last lap, obviously because of the rain. Well, it started pouring on me down the back straightaway and going into turn 3. I said, oh my God, I got to get through this lap somehow. What were those last corners like? Oh, those last corners are real slippery. Well, did you know it was going to rain when you went out? Oh, it looked like it was pretty clear it was going to happen. We just didn't know when.
We talked about the qualifying of Johnny Rutherford trying to get into his 20th Indy 500. This year in his Chevy-powered 84 March, which A.J. Foyt had entered, Johnny tried 3 times but couldn't get the car qualified. So then A.J. and Jim Gilmore bought Al Unser Jr.'s backup car at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and believe it or not, at 10 minutes to 6, Johnny was on the track. But there were anxious moments ahead
as we saw, Jackie Stewart.
Well, first of all, just to climb into a car that you had no knowledge of in any way, I think is pretty remarkable. You'll see the car is generally painted black, but there's some red in the back there. That's the rear wing. It's off the Foyt, but look right there. There's a lot of smoke coming out of that car. Now, this was a strange car altogether to him. They didn't know the engine, they didn't know anything about it, and they were certainly having a problem. It did seem that it had something to do with surge. And look at the Foyt crew. Look at AJ really throwing it out at him and telling him to go. But look at the smoke. I think obviously the officials were even thinking, should we throw the yellow, because is he dropping oil? It was a very tender decision.
It looked like a meteor.
I think a very courageous drive by Johnny Rutherford. He must have been so relieved when it was all over.
Of all the driving that he has done here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I don't think he's ever been more grateful to see that checkered flag.
Last Sunday, the final day of qualifying at Indy lived up to a reputation for 11th hour drama. Now, the final hour of qualifying. The face of two-time winner Gordon Johncock reflects the tension. When do you take your shot at bumping the slowest car in the field? The contrast, the uptight Rich Vogler, driver of that car for the second year in a row. Suddenly, Johncock made a move, added to the tension with a wave off, then launched his one remaining time trial attempt. There were crossed fingers in Gordo's pit, white knuckles in the Vogler camp. Johncock ran nearly 2:07 and bumped Vogler by a quarter of a mile an hour. With 2 minutes left, Rich roared onto the racetrack in a backup car. For the last two men with a shot at the 500, the entire month of May boiled down to a few ticks of the stopwatch. At 207.126 miles per hour, the final verdict was rendered. Vogler is back in. Gordon Johncock is out.
Another interesting thing about Bubble Day, the fourth day of qualifying, deals are being made. Drivers are going to other owners and saying, can I take your car? Here's Larry Newber.
Well, Bob, here's the latest deal. You see Rich Vogler suiting up. He just walked down the pit road with Mike Fannin and Andy Penske of the Machinists Union. He is getting ready to buckle inside of Kevin Cogan's backup car.
Think about this. Never been in a car before. He's going to have a couple of laps, whatever length his practice period is, and then try to qualify it. This is like marrying a girl you met 10 minutes ago.
Back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where the musical chairs of race cars continues. That is Johnny Rutherford, as predicted earlier in this broadcast, getting behind the wheel of the A.J. Foyt backup car.
The green flag comes out, and Rich Vogler is on his qualification run. The first lap, not too bad. It is good enough to bump Rutherford from the lineups. And lap number 2 for Rich Vogler is 213.290. It's good enough.
Richie did a great job, particularly in a car that he never saw half an hour ago.
Here he comes down for the checkered flag, and Rich Vogler has bumped his way into the starting lineup for this year's 500-mile race. We'll wait to absolutely confirm that. Yes, he does. The fourth lap was still good enough. 42.208 seconds at a speed of 213.230. A very consistent run for Rich Vogler. Now, Johnny Rutherford is going to get an attempt to get back in the starting field. We're about a minute and a half or so away from the 6 o'clock gun, and now one final question remains for qualifying for the Indianapolis 500. Will Johnny Rutherford put A.J. Foyt's backup car into the lineup? Meanwhile, here is another very nervous driver. Rookie Bernard Jourdain, who knows that if Rutherford can go faster than 213.015, he will be out and Rutherford will be in.
Well, it's all up for the stopwatch now.
Rutherford will take the green flag, no question about it, just to see what the car will do. There it is. The green flag is out for Johnny Rutherford, a three-time winner of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Trying to get back in the field. Oh, and the engine is dying. It's going away. The warm-up lap was 217 miles an hour, and the engine goes away. There's the gun. That ends qualifying for this year's 500. Johnny Rutherford's engine lets go in turn number 1 as the green flag comes out, and the three-time winner will not be starting this year's race. But Bernard Jourdain is happy and celebrates with members of his crew. He is in. On the other spectrum of the emotional chart is Benny Rutherford.
But for a few more miles an hour in car 77. Salt Walther trying to come back. He had a terrible crash here way back in 1973. There you see his car, number 77. Walther's best time to date has been 208 miles an hour, and that will not be good enough to best the 210.268 of Jeff Andretti. Jeff Andretti is under attack. Salt Walther is on the racetrack trying to beat Andretti's speed of 210.268 miles an hour.
And he picks it up a little bit, 211.332.
That makes his average 210.765, and that's enough to bump Andretti if he can keep up that pace. Walther seriously burned in a start line crash here at Indianapolis in 1973. Went through more than 100 surgical procedures. Lost the fingers on his left hand. Became addicted to morphine as a painkiller. Was even arrested for trying to obtain the drug illegally a couple of years back. Went through rehabilitation. Says he's been clean for about 15 months now, and he wants to drive a race car again. Spent some time in the American Racing Series driving turbocharged Buicks, and he is now back at the Speedway with a wave to the crowd. He takes the checkered flag, and I think Jeff Andretti knows bad news is coming. Rocky Moran, once again, the speed he must reach, 210.558 miles an hour to bump Salt Walther. It's a good one. 210.891 miles an hour. If he can maintain this speed, he can knock Salt Walther out of the race.
This is it, the checkered flag.
It looks like it's a good one. It looks like Rocky Moran will make the Indy 500. And the news is coming over the PA system right now to Salt Walther. He told us he didn't think it would stand up, and it didn't. Congratulations to him were the words on his lips.
Probably the wildest roller coaster ride of the month in terms of emotions has been experienced by Willie Ribbs, attempting to become the first black driver ever to make the race. Will he get a qualifying shot?
And you know, Willie hasn't been breaking bones out here, but he has been breaking motors, 4 of them in 9 days. This morning they came out for practice. Somebody accidentally overfilled the oil capacity by 1 full quart, and then they came out later and smoked a turbo. Big plume of smoke. They've managed to find another one from Brayton Engineering. They installed it about 40 minutes ago. They've just taken the car back to fuel it. They think they're going to be able to make a run.
Back live, Indianapolis Motor Speedway on a rather gloomy-looking Sunday afternoon. It could be gloomy or it could be glorious for Willie Ribbs and his team, depending on the outcome of the next, hour and 35 minutes. Willie Ribbs on the front straightaway at Indianapolis takes the green flag in this historic effort to become the first black man ever to drive the Indy 500. The bubble speed you saw, 213.189. This is the second attempt, the first lap at 217.8, and the crowd goes crazy. They love that announcement. They're really pulling for this guy.
My word, everybody in the front stretch here cheering Willie T. Ribbs on 217, faster than he has ever gone here at the Speedway. But Willie T. Ribbs looks as if he's in the field.
Ribbs down. Nothing can go wrong now. He can coast into Indy 500 history. The checkered flag falls. Ribbs has made it.
Watch this. Just look at the emotion Willie T shows here, and everybody out on the pit lane to celebrate along with him. A great display, a great effort. Nobody and no team has worked harder to qualify for this race than Willie T. Ribbs. Bill Cosby's perseverance and support has really been paid off. Just look at this.
This, I believe, rivals the moment. Perhaps, a tenth of the crowd here that we saw on pole day. But keep in mind that that's still 20 or 30,000 people along that front straightaway, and they're all on their feet. It rivals the moment when A.J. Foyt drove into the middle of row 1. Willie Ribbs has made history at Indianapolis, and America stands to honor him as he climbs out of the cockpit.
This car is a one-of-a-kind, an Indy car built in the United States. Its owner-driver is a one-of-a-kind, too. Bobby Rahal, not satisfied with his role solely as a driver, became a car owner in 1991. 18 months later, he made the decision to build his own cars. And last week, he qualified the Miller Genuine Draft Special for next week's running of the Indianapolis 500. But he sits on the bubble at the moment.
You are ready to climb into one of John Menard's car, taking your sponsorship with you. How apprehensive are you, and have you ever been in a situation like this before in your career?
Now, what do you say? We got 3 hours left to qualifying. I'm jumping in the car for the first time. Menard came up and asked us if we want to run it. We had a little short talk with our team, and our team's going to run the car. We're going to try to qualify it, and we'll just take it from there.
But here we see the key to what may happen in the next hour. Cheever has rolled his Menard Buick into tech. They will go through this car with a fine-tooth comb with the USAC officials. If it is legal to run, which we presume it is, it looks like Cheever is going to make an attempt to bump Bobby Rahal out of the field.
We are underway with the warm-up for what may be the most dramatic qualifying run, at least in recent IndyCar history.
Listen to this. Cheever is above 218 miles an hour, 218.5. And Bobby Rahal, you better put your fighting face on. You have to go back to battle.
Here he comes to complete this dramatic qualifying run. Eddie Cheever down to the checkered flag. I think there's no doubt that he's done it. We'll wait for the confirmation from the computer. A last-minute marriage with another car owner gives Cheever a ride. Rahal straps into the cockpit, some 8 minutes away from the gun that will end the day.
But there should be enough speed in this car to get Rahal back in the race. And unfortunately for Kevin Cogan, that will put him on the sideline.
The speed he needs is 2:17.230. The speed he has is 2:17.360. That is fast enough by the tiniest of margins. Rahal must now continue to dig down and pull it out. He's got to do that 3 more laps. The gun has just sounded. Qualifying ends with this run. Bobby Rahal halfway through puts the second lap in the book, and it's down significantly. 2:16.82 the average, 2:17.090. It's not good enough. Rahal's got to push it even harder, and I wonder if the car can do it. The gloom on Carl Hogan's face, I think, may tell the story as we await the time for lap 3.
No good.
2:14.782. It is not going to happen.
He's out.
Bobby Rahal will not make the 500. The watch tells it all. It's all over for Bobby Rahal. The national champion will not make the Indy 500.
The real story here, Derek Daly, is the fact that if yesterday they were struggling, what are the Penskes doing today? They're still not in.
And it's hard to believe that the struggle continues, and I wonder at the end of the day, will we replace the word struggle with maybe with the word embarrassment, because it would be embarrassing for Roger Penske to miss this race. They've gone through 4 cars. Started off with the 95 Penske, went back to the 94 Penske, a 94 Reynard, a 95 Lola seemed to be the ticket. However, the speed never came.
Keeping an eye on the starter, keeping an eye down at the Penske team members at the far end of the pit area as Emerson Fittipaldi tries desperately to make it into the 500 field. Will they take it? Will they take the run? Will they take the run? And they do. The checkered flag flies for Emerson Fittipaldi. He completed the 4th lap at 225.068 miles an hour.
Because I don't see enough speed here through our speed traps to lift Alonso into the 227s or 8 range, which is what it will take to bring that average above Emerson's. Al Jr. is in deep trouble.
Heading for the checkered flag, keeping an eye now on the final lap average. He has to beat 224.9. 224.907, he can't do it. He doesn't do it. Alonso Jr. has not yet qualified. Fittipaldi is still in the field. Now what will this man, Roger Penske, do? The team has never been in this situation. 24 minutes to go. Car's still in line.
He has the speed in this car, but he doesn't have the speed when it counts. You have to produce it right now, Stefan, if you're going to make it into this race.
Here he brings the speed up. Stefan Johansson at 225.739. He's averaging 225.282, fast enough to take Emerson Fittipaldi out of the field. And the 4th lap complete. And 225.547 takes Emerson Fittipaldi, the second and final Penske car, out of the field. Tony Bettenhausen has a car in the field. Stefan Johansson has made it into the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and Emerson Fittipaldi is out.
I think you should say that again. He's what?
Out.
Heartbreaking stories yesterday in pole day was that of Robbie Buell. A tired race car and a tired engine and cold tires were the victims together that caused Robbie to spin down in turn 1 as he was preparing to come around for the green flag.
On his warm-up lap, and here's what happened.
We can see the back end come around. He's along for the ride now. The car slams hard into the wall.
But Robbie Buell, you got to know, is very disappointed because, as you saw, the engine apparently let go on that car, and he was really lucky to keep it out of the wall because he was in the corner when the engine let go.
Well, the big concern in Indianapolis right now is not speed and not the racetrack, but the weather. How much will the weather allow these guys to run? How much time will be allowed in Bubble Day for qualifying? There is a cell north of the Speedway. There's a small cell south of the Speedway which has split the track thus far. But it is building up behind those cells to come across the track. The estimations they have been given from the weather people in the area are maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes, at least within the hour, we should have sprinkles across the racetrack.
Well, you pulled out all stops at this point. Robbie Buell has had one problem after another. He's scrambling to possibly get into a Foyt car, Gary.
Oh boy, is he ever, and is this Foyt team amazing in the way they're helping out. Everybody, we have counted here during the break, there have been as many as 9 men swarming over this chassis that used to be one of the 14s, a backup car for Kenny Breck. Included in the group is the other Foyt driver, Billy Boat, who's helping the crew down here around the gearbox. And so the sprint is on. Can they beat the rain? He ran 2:19 plus in what, 4 laps? And now we're going to find out whether or not he can try to stick this one in the show. Oh boy.
As the green flag comes out for Robbie Buell, there are raindrops being felt in certain areas of the racetrack. Not enough to cause the caution to come on, but that's how close a possible rain delay is here. He's really going to have to stand on the button here in the last lap to get it done. You can see that number continues to shrink. It's now 1.50. Let's just see. We're hearing of raindrops again on the Speedway. Third lap for Robbie Buell coming up. It's 2:20.097. It's still not good enough. Oh my goodness, he may have it here if he can. Look at this. 0.003. It's going to be incredibly close. They're going to let him take it. And now our indication is that he did bump his way in.
Boy, that is close.
He did it. Unbelievable. As Mike has his official photo taken, he's bumped from the lineup.
Incredible what he just did, and because of the fact that he came out of turn 4 and the rain was starting to pick up here on the front straightaway.
There are now 2 women in the Indianapolis 500 field. Billy Boat has been bumped from the starting lineup, and we have more qualifying to go.
Behind him, A.J. Foyt has rolled out another car. This car is the 11T, which A.J. just told me has not been up to speed yet this month, has been shaken down, and Billy Boat is in that car. They have the setup put on it, and Billy, if time permitting, will try to put that car in the field.
And they're going to let him go.
Boy, that was close.
To complete lap number 1, Billy Boat. And the first lap.
Oh, yes. 219.9.
Almost 220 miles an hour for Boat.
A.J. impressive. He had not been in that car just until a moment ago. Impressive run so far.
Well, the crew does such a great job.
Oh, A.J. choked with emotion. He said, he told me a moment ago, said Billy had not been in the car until just now in the warm-up lap, and now he's at almost 220. This time by, guys, let's see what he does.
Checkered flag drops, and Billy Boat's last lap is good enough. He is in 217.507, an average of 218.872.
A.J.
He is in, and Miller is out.
A.J., he did it. How about that? No practice at all.
Well, you know, the car is brand new. The crew, I've got such a great guy. They set him up. Kid's one hell of a good friend of mine. One hell of a job he did. What can I say? I mean, that takes balls to do what he did. The car never had a hot lap. He never was in it. That's unbelievable.
Tony Stewart was on the grounds. Tony Stewart was now full-time NASCAR, and there was a rumor that he was helping to stir up, along with A.J. Foyt. He went to visit Foyt. One thing led to another. And there was the rumor going around that Tony Stewart's going to drive for Foyt. Well, Tony hadn't been in the 500 since 01 for Ganassi. And so anyway, there was some discussion about it, and big to-do down on the qualifying line, because I remember with Kerry Agajanian and Tony Stewart, and I don't know if Foyt was the other person in that mix, but anyway, apparently it was getting some serious consideration, but there was some contractual issues to consider, so it didn't happen.
We are approaching 13 minutes remaining, and Buddy Lazier is back into line. In fact, he has passed the tech line and will be about to take his second attempt. Now, he's got to go 218.620 to make it into the field, and he hasn't been close yet. Buddy Lazier, 219.227, so laying the wing back was huge.
And he's ramped up big time on his second lap. No, I think this is the greatest story of the day. To be able to come and do so few laps and to make big changes on your last run to 4 with 10 minutes to go, that's phenomenal. What a great team, a great effort.
Lap 3 again at 219 and low change. His average is 219.205, which would secure him in the field. It looks like, according to lap time, yes, the numbers are going to be there. Buddy Lazier, the 96 winner, is going to make it into the field. So Dominguez with 3 minutes and 45 seconds and counting.
Marty, they have made changes to Dominguez's car. They added a little bit of front wing, took out some rear wing, but to give you an idea of just how precious time is right now, the crew was running with the car, with the crew members literally hanging off the back wing, trying to make the changes as the car rolled to tech.
And he is out, so he will get one more shot to put it into the field. And here comes the green flag. This will be our final qualifier for the 92nd running of the Indianapolis 500. All right, here's lap number 1, 219.780. That is good. Oh, no! He spins it and hits the wall. And now almost gets airborne. And the gun has fired. Buddy Lazier chagrined because every driver has been in that position where you push and push.
And you don't want to see that, and that was Margaret.
Third and final attempt with aerodynamic changes, but if he said it was comfortable and flat, that'll build a driver's confidence.
It's all come down to this for John Andretti. The green flag is out. 4 laps. Will he get into the race? Lap 1 for Andretti. 221.571.
Now he's got to hang on to it. He might slip into the 220s. He's losing a little bit of speed. It's going to be close.
But the bar still's got him at 29.
He's going to make the race.
There
he is going to make the race. Checkered flag. Average 221.316.
Yeah.
He did it.
Look at that.
After all that agony, he makes the race, but now the agony of defeat falls on Ryan Hunter-Reay. Now let's see if the Vision Racing car can get back into the field after having just been bumped. And Ryan Hunter-Reay is on his 4-lap qualifying run. 220.9.
You got it figured out, Jan.
That's good enough to bump Tagliani. Gun is about to sound, closing the track. There it is. The track is closed. Here's lap number 2 for Ryan. 220.828, just a little bit slower. And it would appear as if Ryan Hunter-Reay is not going to be successful, but let's wait till the official statistics come in.
Look at those numbers.
Oh, yes.
It is so close. 0.010. He's right on the cusp.
Let it have its head.
220.597. He needed a 553.
Wow.
He made it.
Wow, he made it in the last straightaway.
Wow.
I
Another day of highs and lows. Things can't get much lower for sentiment of favorite Tony Kanaan. This is not a replay of yesterday. At 9:20 this morning, shortly after the track opened for practice, Kanaan in trouble again. Yesterday at 1:12, this is what happened. He slid all the way to the second turn, making contact. Bump day is beginning to get to Tony Kanaan.
We don't really have to comment too much on that. That tells it all, doesn't it? Man.
And Sebastian Saavedra has crashed.
Oh, boy. Brian Herta's group there, team owner. There he is.
They needed to go out to get a read on the car in case they got bumped. They don't have another car, and he's on the bubble.
And Tony Kanaan begins his effort to get into the 2010 Indianapolis 500 field.
Okay, come on now.
Let's see what it is. The checkered flag waves, and Tony Kanaan has completed the run. Fourth lap, 223.595. He is safe.
Yes, he is.
Tony Kanaan makes the field for the 500-mile race. From Tokyo, Japan to Kumasato, driving for KV Racing Technology in the Lotus colors. Qualifies and bumps Jay Howard. Sato's four-lap average, 224.178. Tracy is on the bubble. Jay Howard out of the race right now, has just completed his first lap. It's a 223.920, just enough to bump Paul Tracy. Fourth lap is 223.080, 223.610, and you can see the disappointment on Sarah Fisher's face. Her second car is not in the 500. Paul Tracy remains on the bubble, and there he is. Will he withdraw his speed?
Guys, I'm standing down here right now. They've just signed the paper. They have fired it, and you're about to hear it. He's on it, on his way out. He's withdrawn.
So who does that put back in? That puts Howard back in.
Jay
Howard's
Howard
back in.
Green flag comes out. 10 miles for Paul Tracy to get back into the field.
That was 230 even. Oh, he's high again.
Oh, man.
And it got loose, and that is where the wind's hitting you. As soon as you come off of three.
This may bite them. He might have taken himself out of the Indy 500.
All right, let's take a look at the second lap. It's 223.070, and now he is below what's needed.
Jay Howard is back in this show as it sits right now.
They're going to wave it off. They're going to abort the run. He's got one more.
Now Howard is in. Are they going to pull him out? It's decision time.
They just handed the paper. They are going to fire this car up, and they're going to send him out.
Oh, what a bad move, I think. You call up saying Paul Tracy?
Here's the thing. But if he passes, Paul Tracy's next.
Yeah, but
so they're putting it in their hands.
Oh, man.
3, 2, 1, that's it.
But here's the clarification. When Paul Tracy pulled his time to make another run, you pull it for good. You don't get it back. Paul Tracy isn't on the bubble. Yeah. Paul Tracy withdrew his time. Sebastian Saavedra is the one back in. He has a crash car, and he might get in the Indy 500.
That's what it is.
Here's the checkered flag. Qualifications are over for 2010. The final qualifier, Jay Howard, and he does not make the 500. His four-lap average, 223.120. Sarah Fisher's second car will not be in the 33-car lineup.
But still struggling for speed is Andretti Autosport. They have one in, and that's their part-time driver, John Andretti, in a one-off, but the other four could not get up to speed yesterday. This is a team that's won the 500 twice in the last several years. And
Danica Patrick had her car fired up. She was ready to go at the last minute, right when the checkered flag flew for Paul Tracy. Brian Barnhart stepped in front of the car. They shut the car off. She is the last car that needs to go today.
And Marty, it's worth noting, because we had to talk it through this morning, there are no guaranteed attempts on the second day. She's already had her guaranteed attempt. If for some reason it continued running, that would be it.
Here is the checkered flag, and Danica Patrick's fourth lap is 224.453. She has qualified for the 500 in good shape, 224.861 miles an hour.
Yep. Mike Conway is
not going
to make the Indy 500 this year. Wow.
Alex Lloyd comes down to complete lap number 1. This could be a bump of Marco Andretti. Lap number 1 complete. Let's see if it's good enough. Yes, it is. 223.732.
And Marco knows that because James Jakes got in front of him, he may not have an opportunity to defend. But Alex Lloyd still has to finish this. Yeah. It's another 224. I think he's got it.
My checkered flag waves. Lap number 4. 224.078, average 223.957, and Alex Lloyd has bumped Marco Andretti from the starting lineup.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Ryan Hunter-Reay is now on the bubble. James Jakes is on the racetrack. But now remember, we've got about 3 minutes to go, and if they see that he is not fast enough to get into the lineup, they'll wave him off and allow Marco to go out onto the racetrack. Yeah. The second lap is a little slower, though, than the first, so the run is aborted. Marco Andretti goes on with 50 seconds to go. Oh, my goodness. Marco Andretti's lap 1, 224.728. Way good enough to get into the field. Marco Andretti survives a painstaking afternoon. The checkered flag drops, and Marco Andretti does indeed get into the field with a 224.628 miles an hour. He'll start inside row number 10.
I can't even fathom this at the moment.
Not had the best of solo speed in the practice we saw yesterday on Friday. Those no-toe laps, he was 23rd fastest. So now to string 4 of them together out there by himself under those green conditions that we discussed before is a bit of a challenge. And so the slowest of the 11 to complete a run, James Hinchcliffe. Checkered flag for Connor Daly, 32nd. James Hinchcliffe is bumped.
My goodness. I would have never said, Alan, starting the month that Hinchcliffe would have been on the bubble.
And right away, the Schmidt-Peterson team moves that Hinchcliffe car from the line of protected times over to the withdraw your time line, or they're trying to. They're having a conversation with series officials there. So Pip McMahon and company will have to come back and try again. So James Davison continues to sit on the bubble. James Hinchcliffe will be next on the track. 13 minutes and change left to go.
Boy, I can feel the tension just sitting here.
Very, 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 very bad rotation. Vibration. Very bad vibration.
But now it looks like they're still going to have a problem, and now they're talking about waving him into the pit box.
They have done that, Rick. He's come onto the warm-up road. His crew running up the pit lane from the turn 1 end to the turn 4 end where that car will come. That's no short task, but the clock continuing to tick. Neither of the 2 cars in the fast lane were at the head of the line and ready, so here's Alexander Rossi out on the track. He's in 16th position, trying to see if he can find a way to get into the fast 9. So 2 minutes left, and the track will become available to Pip McMahon. And all James Hinchcliffe can do is sit, listen to his heartbeat, and watch the seconds tick away. And bump day is over. Man not fast enough. Pip McMahon and James Hinchcliffe will not make the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, it's it's devastating in every way possible. You know,
What can you and the team look at overnight to prepare for bump day tomorrow?
Well, not much, to be honest. I think it has been the whole week okay, you know, and the speed is not really there probably on the car, and we will not find it in one night. So we'll try to do a good and clean run, and hopefully that will put us in the top 3 positions.
If he makes it into this field, this will be a miraculous Alonso-style comeback that only a driver like Fernando Alonso could pull off. The 2-time Formula One world champion comes to the line to complete his one and only chance. 227.2, and that was an amazingly consistent run to go second quick.
His minimum speeds are higher than Fernando. He crosses the line to start his last lap.
That's faster than Alonso again.
2:27.2 faster.
If he
He's
can
just got to hang on, and you've knocked out Alonso.
This 23-year-old American could deny a two-time Formula One world champion a shot at motorsport's Triple Crown. This is one of IndyCar's smallest teams knocking over a global motorsport giant.
Working turn 3, he comes down below the white line, slightly high, but the car looks stable. I'm watching turn 4 apex speed. Minimum speed, 226 miles an hour. That's great speed. Let's listen to the radio.
Yard of bricks, Kyle Kaiser. Has he knocked Alonso out? He has! Oh! Kyle Kaiser and Hunkos Racing are in the Indy 500. Alonso's out. McLaren goes home.
Little wiggle at the exit of 1. That tail just kind of walking around. It never hits the wall.
He hit the wall on exit.
I don't think he lifted though, Lee. That's going to cost him some speed, though. They're only 233 down the back straightaway. Is that car bent? Will it make it through the next corner? That right rear toe could be knocked out. It'll start driving like a forklift if it is. Problem now is you're in park for May. Once you go in the pit box, you can't make any adjustments to the car now either.
227. So that leaves Will Power with a 4-lap average of 228.8. That is slower than Sage Karam, and the 2018 Indianapolis 500 winner is in serious danger of missing this field.
Here it is. That's in 1. We talked about the wiggle. You can see the rear end dancing around there, and now he's high. Oh! There's a pretty good chance now, Graham Rahal, you're going to be in the Indy 500.
Harvey is coming to the famous Yard of Bricks for the final time. Does he do it or does he not? Jack Harvey to the line.
No.
And misses out by the narrowest of margins.
And with 5:30 to go, there really isn't time or reason to go out.
Jack Harvey on the way back in said on the radio to the team, they had the discussion and they had the very brief decision making. We're going to go again. Here we go. 229.4. It's not as fast as what Graham Rahal's first lap was, but it doesn't mean that he's out of it. One more lap for Jack Harvey. Lap 229.1.
Wait a second. Maybe that adjustment was the difference. That right hand went down twice for the roll bar. And now Graham Rahal is at risk.
Graham Rahal's heart is in his throat, sitting in his race car. He is 2 corners away from knowing whether or not he will be in the greatest spectacle in racing.
This is a guy on the ropes, but he is swinging punches.
Hit your marks, Jack Harvey. Smooth hands, eyes up, and take a breath. You're about to find out if you're in the Indy 500.
Don't ever question the character of Britain's Jack Harvey. He's not giving up. Is he in the 500 or is he out? Jack Harvey's in! Jack Harvey is in the Indy 500. Graham Rahal is out. 30 years since his dad didn't make it. It's the same fate for Graham Rahal.
1/100th of a mile an hour was the difference.
Oh,
over. You are in the race.
What an incredible call.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Wow.